Oh, a little more abrupt than I thought it was going to be. All right, what's up? Hey, I never get that 100% right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Crossing the Streams. We got a classic crew for you today. What's up, everybody? Woo, I'm used to Ron whistling at this point, and now it sounds odd. We got two great guests, John Sullivan, Scott Curtis. But first, let's kick off. Let's do the theme song. Let's let John kick it off, and then I'll pass it over to Scott.
All right. Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Sal, and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing the Streams.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross the streams.
We cross the streams.
Cross the streams.
We cross the
We
streams.
cross the streams.
We cross
That's the way we do it. Here we cross the streams.
Ta-da!
All right. Well, hey, welcome to episode 89 of Crossing the Streams. Can you believe it? 89 hours streaming on YouTube. You can find amazing binge watching suggestions. Crossing the Streams, where we answer the universal question, what should I binge next? I just finished something. I got to start something else. Well, you've come to the right place. Yes, you have. Right here. We got 4,000 hours of experience between the four of us. 1,000 hours each. That's a low ball estimate. That's a low ball. We got two amazing guests, both return fan favorites of the show. Both have been away for quite a bit, but we're glad to have them both back at once.
In black.
Back in black. So John Sullivan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Happy to be back. It's been a long time. I can't even remember last time I was on or what show I was or movie I was reviewing. I think this is maybe my fourth or fifth
We
time
remember
on.
You, John.
I think it was a Nicolas Cage. It's been a while, but but you kind of you disappeared, and then you just retreated to Instagram. So
I'm on Insta now. Find me on Insta.
Then I hunted you back down on Insta. Tell everyone all about your Insta and all that.
So I'm the guy behind Depressed Darth, which was originally kind of started a long time ago on Twitter. Back when Twitter had lots of jokes and eventually memes. But I had multiple accounts on Twitter, eventually got suspended, everything suspended for reasons I don't really understand. So I am now on Instagram where you can find my videos. I have a Vader suit. It's sort of a take on Darth Vader, but he's sort of, going through some emotions. And there's sort of some comedy there that we do. And check it out, depressed_Darth on Instagram.
All right.
So
and then
you don't know why? Why did Twitter? I got thrown off Facebook a couple weeks ago because they said I posted nudity. I didn't. It was
of yourself.
No, it was a guy in wolf underwear. There was a wolf face on this. It was so stupid, and they tossed me off for 24 hours. So. But they at least gave
you
me
off for nudity?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. They tossed you off for nudity. All right.
The bastards.
I want that to sink in for a second.
So you still don't know they never gave you a reason?
So ultimately what it came down is because I appealed it, and they came up with the rule in November, end of 2020 maybe, and it was called platform manipulation. So I had lots of different accounts that had kind of from Depressed Art that were not comedy. They were just all different subjects.
Oh, did we lose you for a second?
They threw you off again. They found you here.
They found you.
They found you.
John, talk for a second. There you go.
I was retweeting lots of stuff, and they called it platform manipulation. I think it was more for nefarious characters who had sin were doing all sorts of stuff. This was more just retweeting movie quotes, and it was sort of this network. So I appealed it, but nothing's really happened. So I've been in jail, and my accounts are all technically like still there. I can see them, but I just can't do anything on them.
And they won't answer you, huh? Oh, that's too bad.
Which is unfortunate.
Before we say hi,
No, I appealed it, and then I don't know. There's like it seems almost like you can't get a response. Like I couldn't even get someone to talk to, an email with, or do.
You're going in and out a little bit, John.
Ron's down in Abbott Land. Don't try to get an abortion, Mr. Lippett.
All right, let's bring it. And then Jerry. Hey, Jerry, what's up?
Yes, Jerry, it is right now.
Wait, did John trying to come? Wait, what's going on here? John's on twice now.
I'm going to kick the palm of his hand. There we go.
There we go. All right.
Sorry,
as John settles back in,
he
Scott,
looks like the guy that was just talking.
He was. Scott, tell everyone about your awesome podcast, Behind the Bits.
You know what, Jeff? My life's a dumpster fire, and I've got a podcast, but I don't even feel like talking about it. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about true friendship, Jeff, because I've ghosted you so many times in the last year and just totally dropped off the face of the earth, and yet you keep checking on me and asking how I'm doing. You, sir, are a true friend. I've got a podcast called Behind the Bits. I haven't even put an episode up this week because I don't even know how to do it anymore. But you are having me on the show, and you are my friend, sir.
Well, I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
Very nice. You're a good dude, Jeffrey.
I know. I wish more people realized
and
that.
The Robert Klein interview is aces, buddy. Absolute aces.
Oh, did you listen to it?
Of course I did. I listened to all your episodes.
Thank you. I felt a need at the beginning of that one to mention the bird sounds.
Yeah, I know.
When I do podcasts, I am very, I don't know, if I'm doing podcasts, I am very like honed in, to any noise. What maybe didn't bother me in the past, a little, like sometimes people wear like their mics and then it hits their shirt.
Yeah.
And it just goes, and like maybe a normal person wouldn't notice it. You might as well drive a nail through my head. You know what I mean? And it's like I've gotten to that point. And so the funny thing about Robert Klein, and he was amazing. Don't get me wrong he was amazing. And so he calls me before the episode and he's like, my housekeeper's here. I'm going to do it from the pool. Can we test it? I said, sure. So we test it from the pool. And then he goes, great. I go, we'll talk to you in an hour. And I said, great. And so he calls me from outside in his gorgeous backyard. And I'm like, he's like, is this okay? I'm like, I mean, it's me. I don't tell the famous person I'm talking to something's not okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
have a cheesesteak.
And it was fine. It just, there was a lot of birds, It was like, and it's like, chirp, 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 chirp. I mean, it just, and I'm always thinking like, because people are listening to it, what it's going to sound like, I'm sure it was fine. But like, I overthink this. I always tell the story. I was listening to a podcast once and I listen to people who I'm going to interview. I listen to them on other shows. I think one of the greatest compliments I've gotten of recent was someone reached out to me and said, hey, whenever I'm having someone on the show and you've had them, I listen to your interview.
Oh, cool.
So
see how it's done.
Great.
That was a nice compliment. And so I'm listening to that. Now keep in mind, like if somebody goes, like if you hear it means I couldn't get it out. And it kills me that you had to hear it. And you probably didn't even notice it. And I'm listening to this one person's interview and it's when the host would be there and there's nothing. And then the comedian answers and then there's nothing. And then the comedian answers. The host was literally not in this 45-minute interview. And so I reached out to my friend and I said, oh, your friend uploaded the wrong file. and we're in a DM. Oh, no, my mic, something was wrong with my mic. I'm like, I'm worried about and you put up an episode and you're not even in it? And no one probably cared. Like she's just answering questions that aren't being asked. I mean, I would have overdubbed it. I would have re-asked it. I would have done something, right? We lost John.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just so I overthink all this. But thank you for listening to that. It was nice. I'll tell you,
And
like,
what I said, even though I said it in kind of a funny way, is true. Jeff will answer my IM or whatever you call it, my message in 5 minutes. I'll leave his unread for 6 days because I can't bring myself to open any social media.
Oh man. All right. Let's oh, John's back again.
Sorry about that.
No
We got
problem.
the third angle.
Well, since we're having all these technical issues, drink. So anyone following along, you probably got to catch up about 3 on John. And then if we forget to tell what platform the show is on, drink. If we put your name up on the screen, drink. You can comment along. We love that. If we forget someone's name, drink. If someone drinks, drink. Just drink. It's fine. And then a second, while the world just seems to be watching while Putin claims, committing horrendous war crimes and still is going all in on this. I'm surprised the world has not done something to stop this. It just seems like at this point it's insane. Anyway, so we have an awesome show for you today, my friends. Last week in episode 88, we had I don't remember that, Megadeth, I think it was. It was a really cool one. And then Untold, which Sal said wasn't as good as the last Untold. And then we had why can't I remember? Oh, RRR, and we talked about Rings of Power, which I'm still watching. I enjoy it.
What was the I wasn't on last week's show. What was the consensus about Rings of Power?
My wife is watching it, and we're enjoying it together. I think the consensus is, and I don't know if it's from the show or just it's just like it's like they did another season of Game of Thrones. I don't feel like there's nothing new except the characters are new, and I think we'll have to see how they handle this next episode because it's the huge time jump and all the kid actors are different. And,
are you talking about Game of Thrones now?
No, I'm talking about Ring of the.
Oh, they're doing a time jump in that too?
Well, they've already done like 5 time jumps, but this next one is like all the actors, like Rhaenyra, they're all different actors and actresses in the next on Sunday, like at least 4 of them.
Yeah, that's Game of Thrones.
That's House of Dragons, right?
I'm sorry. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
What did
Rings
I say?
of Power is the Amazon.
Rings
Oh
of
yeah,
Power.
yeah. House of Dragon. I'm sorry. I don't even watch.
I confuse them too. It's so weird that they're out at the same time. They're both fantasy, but like, which one do you like better? Because I'm watching both of them. Do you have a preference?
I don't watch Ring of Power.
Oh.
That's why it's weird that I kept saying that. Ron's like wrong show, Jeff. I
Wrong
thought
show,
I was saying
Jeff.
that right. I thought
I can't believe
Ron is heckling me from thing. So anyway, I got about 10 things wrong there. So somebody's drunk. Hey Lee, what's up?
she's trolling Ron.
I know.
I don't know. Oh, yay. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So cool. All right. So let's get into some of the good stuff. So we did that. So today we're going to talk about Moonfall, The Champion, The X-Files, and Confess Fletch. So why don't we start with the X-Files and go right into, this is a rare moment where I let one of the guests go first, but Scott's been here so many times. So Scott, take us through the X-Files.
Hello, my name is Scott Curtis, and I'm watching the X-Files all the way through for the 3rd time. And if you know me, you know that I am not a nostalgic type of guy. I don't care about anything that happened in my past. I just look at the future. But the X-Files came to me at a time when my kids were little, and it was like the only show that really spoke to me. So I like never missed an episode. I always watched them live when they were first aired, anytime I could, and I absolutely loved it. So probably 5 or 6 years ago, I did a second run through on it, and I loved it again. Now I'm doing the 3rd run through, and I'm about halfway through season 2, and I'm starting to pick everything apart and it's I'm starting to second guess everything that I loved about the show. But fantastic show. I mean, the writing's good, the way they put everything together, all the conspiracies and stuff like that. It's just that David Duchovny was not that great of an actor when he first started. He got better. I remember him getting better, but man, those first few episodes and that really the whole first season, it's like the most wooden acting you've ever seen. So here I am. I'm recommending the X-Files because David Duchovny is such a bad actor. but no, I just you know, it's one of my favorite all-time shows, and it's kind of disappointing looking at it at this age now, that, you know, everything that I loved about it, I'm starting to think maybe the third time around wasn't the best idea. So, but I don't know if you've experienced that, if you've ever watched any series 3 times, but
No.
yeah, I did Breaking Bad 3 times, and all 3 times were good for me.
I have to say, wow, for Breaking Bad, it's like Breaking Bad to me. Like if someone said watch Ozark again, and believe me, I thought Ozark was one of the best series I've ever watched. But Breaking Bad, same thing. It's just it was a draining. It took a lot out of you. I rewatched The Sopranos recently and loved that experience. I think sometimes though, like I don't know that they anticipated the binge, right?
Yeah.
When DVDs came out and they invented that whole concept of, oh, they'll buy people will buy entire seasons on TV. It opened up an entire industry that I don't think they saw coming. But then it allowed people to watch things in rapid succession. Even watching week to week, you have you don't fully retain everything. But if you're watching something 3 shows in 3 hours, which people do, then you can start to see things. Like we've probably watched Friends 50 times, and at some point you're like, wait a minute, this is fully contradicts. But talk about the X-Files though in general, like what originally drew you to it.
Basically what it is David Duchovny plays a character whose sister was abducted when they were children, and so he's Fox Mulder, and he was in the FBI as a profiler, a criminal profiler, but he's always wanted to investigate this supernatural stuff, and he got the opportunity to do it when they opened the X-Files, and then they sent Gillian Anderson as Dana Scully to be kind of his foil. So she doesn't believe in any of this stuff, so they kind of play off each other, and it starts out really looking like a pretty simple 2-dimensional type show. It's basically, it feels like, okay, they're going to have a weird case, they're going to solve it, they're going to go on to the next one. But then even in the first season, these little conspiracy things start creeping in, like there's a shadow government behind some of the alien stuff, and I don't want to give away everything, but there's puppet masters in different fields doing different things, and are they leading Fox and Scully to these things on purpose, or are Fox and Scully getting into, or Mulder and Scully, are they getting into stuff that they shouldn't? And it's really kind of cool how they kind of throw them in and then they pull them back and throw them in and pull them back, and the cool thing about it is you never really know who you can trust. And the big thing about it is trust no one. You never know who's trustworthy until the end, and they did 10 seasons, so you just
10
don't know.
seasons. Wow, I didn't know that.
That's
a lot.
And they did so many cool things in it. You talk about Breaking Bad, so Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston both had roles in the X-Files, and so many other characters came out of the X-Files, but they created kind of a cool, like, universe within itself. They did 2 movies. The last 2 seasons came out, I think, 2017 and 2018. Those seasons were a little bit lackluster. It wasn't the same type of energy, but it tied a few things up.
Was that
But
the
yeah, I just
reboot?
think
Was
it's
that the reboot, Scott?
yeah, yeah.
When did it
But yeah,
originally air?
I'm sorry.
When did it originally air? Like, when was the start date
I
on it?
believe it was 92,
Oh,
92 or
wow.
93.
That's an eternity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it always on Fox, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
it
is
was one of the
it
first
on
big
now?
shows that Fox put out.
What is it streaming on now? It was live from 93 to 2018.
There you go. So Hulu's where I watch it now.
Oh, Hulu. Okay.
Yeah. And they've got all seasons.
Do they have the talk to me about the smoking man, cigarette smoking man?
Oh man,
Oh,
he's just such a
yeah.
bad guy. I mean, that's one guy you could trust to be a bad guy. He was behind everything. There's a really cool episode. I can't remember what episode it is, but Skinner passes Mulder where smoking man is staying, and Mulder confronts him. And I think it's fairly early in season 2, and because I just watched it not too many days ago. And the funny thing is he really admits that he's just a cog in a machine. He says, I've got some power, I've got no family, nobody cares if I die, but I'm just doing what I know how to do. And it really sums up what he is in that small conversation. I mean, that conversation went on for like 2 minutes. That's it, because Mulder was going to kill him, and then he decided not to. But yeah, it's really interesting that he is just pretty much summed up in that whole conversation. I'm just a cog in the machine.
And doesn't Duchovny leave the series at one point?
He does. I think it was like season 7 or 8. They brought in what's his name? The guy that was in Terminator 2.
Robert Patrick.
Yeah, they brought him in. They brought another one in for Scully. So it got, Duchovny was doing some movies or something like that, and so he skipped out for a while. I know Gillian Anderson skipped out for a while. So they came in and out. I mean, I thought, from what I remember, everybody they dissed that whole Ryan Patrick season, but I thought he was really good.
All right. Yeah, he was 2000, 2002, which is probably when the original series ended, and then they picked it back up in 2018 for that reboot, right?
Yeah.
So that was a long time between the reboots and stuff. And the movies, I remember always being okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The first one I was pretty disappointed with. The second one I liked better.
Do you think the series was kind of a of its time type thing?
It's so funny. I dig some episodes, and some episodes I get lost. I just don't care. And I know that wasn't my attitude the second time through. First time through, I was glued to the screen. Second time, I'm just kind of reliving everything and taking in what I miss, because you miss stuff when you got little toddlers running around and stuff. So being dedicated to watching it, I really dug it. This time, it's just a more critical eye. I don't know if it's of its time, or if it's, I'm just moving on. And still good. I still think if you've got something that you want to watch and you want to give it a shot, I would give that first season a try. If you hate it, then don't watch anymore. If you like it, then it keeps getting better.
217 some episodes. How many episodes?
Yeah, they did 20 some per season.
Well, I know Gillian Anderson was in 217 episodes. Fox was in 193. So that's the most, assuming Jillian was in all of them. So that could be
Yeah.
more actually.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a lot of TV to catch up on. So, but
Wait,
this
are
is one of
they-
those
Are they
classic
half
shows.
hour or hour episodes?
Hour, like 45 minutes.
Hour.
maybe.
Okay.
So all right, so it's on Hulu, and you can watch the evolution of David Duchovny becoming a good actor.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He
fair
had
enough.
one of the greatest scenes ever in a comedic movie that I just found out the other day was ad-libbed. It was in oh God,
Zoolander?
Zoolander, yes. Yeah. What do you?
Oh, really?
I just told you that. Was it such a nice little
Oh, the
aside.
hand model?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right. Speaking of, well, not funny, but let's go to our next movie, which is The Champion, which is a Holocaust drama around a boxer. So, of course, Bob Phillips.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate this being recommended to me. I had never heard of it. And I don't think a lot of people heard of it. It came out in at the height of the pandemic, or it was supposed to come out. Then it was delayed until 2021. It's a Polish film. Zero name actors in here. Not even a Brit thrown in there to get some name recognition. Usually they'll do that in European productions, but so the story is about Teddy Pietrzakowski. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. In 1940, he was in the first wave of prisoners taken to Auschwitz from Poland. And the fact that he was a boxer is, obviously it plays a big part in the movie, but I had to kind of adjust my thinking about this watching the movie to enjoy it, because this is not a boxing movie. Boxing is integral to the plot and integral to you obviously rooting for him. Well, we root for anybody who was in Auschwitz, but in this case, he became a beacon for other prisoners to pin their hopes on when they were, when they thought all was lost. They had this little guy, Teddy, who was he was a 114 pounder. That's a bantamweight. And he was a Polish champion. I don't think he was a pro champion at the time, but when he was taken to Auschwitz, it wasn't readily known that he was a boxer, and he just kind of was doing his thing. And of course, the Germans find out, and then he becomes the entertainment, right? And it's such a, it's so hard to watch and not think of how bitter a person could become in that situation, and how devastated they could become. I mean, there are some scenes that are just that are just almost too much to watch. I mean, the Germans put him up for sport, right? And they know he's a good boxer, and they pit him against other prisoners, and he's just walking right through them, because most of them, including him, are malnourished. They're not getting any sleep. They're working all day. I mean, it's just horrific. Well, then the Germans show some, I wouldn't say kindness, but they figured that he's better alive than dead. So they give him extra food, and now he's fighting some Germans, right? And he's beating them. He's dispatching them with regularity. And that's, that obviously that gives hope to the Auschwitz prisoners. And so, like I said, I kept switching gears as I was watching this. It's not Rocky, and it's not The Pianist. It's something unto itself. It's very good. The boxing scenes, because I'm a purist, I'm gonna look at it and go, that clearly he didn't get hit with that punch. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. The story is the story. It's a true story. It's amazing what this man does. I don't want to give everything away, but during his time fighting for the Germans sport, they inject him with typhus. I mean, they're experimenting on this guy as they did other prisoners. And there was a point at which he is offered his freedom. He can actually leave the camp and go somewhere else, and he says no. The original John McCain, right? No, I'm not leaving. So I have such a huge respect for the guy for a number of different reasons, as you would imagine. But he also had a very interesting life after he left. After the war was over, he was at the Nuremberg trials. He testified against Rudolf Hess. He was married 3 times. Yeah, he was a bit of a rounder. He was a little ladies' man, and he was just a character. And he didn't. It doesn't appear that he carried those scars from the camp all his life. I mean, I'm sure nobody could have gone through that without having some scars. But married 3 times, comes out and wins. I think he won a European title in 1946. Kept living his life, and it's a great uplifting story. One thing that's I thought was really interesting about this, I read the technically this is the first movie. Now, when you watch it, I watched the English dubbed version, okay, and this is the first film. I just read about it yesterday. That it's the first film where they dubbed in English, but they also went back and they changed the mouth movements of the actors to match the English. Because when you're speaking Polish, you can't just throw English out of that mouth. You know how odd it looks. But this was done by a firm in Tel Aviv, and it relies on AI. And they say it's similar to a deep fake, but not the same. So when you're watching it, there's moments where it's a bit like The Irishman. Remember the de-aging? You're watching a 75-year-old Robert De Niro, beating up a guy in the street, and it's just so bad. This isn't as bad, but it takes you out of it a little bit. But it doesn't diminish the story. It's a great story, and whether you like boxing or not, it's well worth watching.
So I watched it also. So a couple things on the box art. There's a few movies that were, none of which any of us would have seen, but foreign films that were based on his life. And the interesting thing, and the reason I would say that people should watch this movie, it's a very intriguing story, but there's also an element to it where they don't pull any punches on the Auschwitz scenes or the vulgarities of how the Nazis treated the Polish or the Jews or anyone in the camps. And if as we sort of enter this new kind of era where people are, forgetting that other people are humans, right? Where women's rights, trans rights, any other type of person like that, Jews, blacks, anything, it's important to watch a movie like this and sort of see firsthand where that rabbit hole can go to and how horrible it can actually become, where people stop thinking of other people as human beings. And
good point.
It's they don't, there's many scenes in this movie where they march the Jews and the Polish and people and whoever's in those camps. Take off your clothes. We're going to give you a shower. You'll get a warm meal after. And the people walk in, they drop in the containers of poison. You hear the screams, and they're dead. And they multiple times they showed that, and just Nazis walking up to people and just killing them because it was convenient or fun. And it's one of those things where when you watch it, it's something you can say, oh, it happened then, but it's the same kind of mentality that is starting to emerge now when people scream, let's go Brandon, or people even hint at the idea that a civil war might be something that we're on the path to. Watch a movie like this and start to realize what dangers that line of thinking is and how we have to really kind of come out of it before it's too late, So
there's a lot going on.
Yeah. So, all right, let's jump out of this one. But thank you, Bob. And it was the deep fake of it. I think it was only in English. I didn't see it in a different, or you could watch it in just English. So, all right, let's jump into our next one, which is get rid of that. Moonfall. This is an HBO Max show, and John Sullivan's going to take us through it. All right. I don't know.
So this is actually a movie. It came out February 4th, 2022, directed by Roland Emmerich. So I basically just put this on. HBO Max has like the newer movies. I feel like it's the platform that comes out kind of with the newest movies. I generally try to watch the sort of newer movies coming out because it makes me feel like when I was younger, I'd kind of go to the theater and see anything. So I just put this on, no research. And it's wild. It's about basically, it opens up. Let me just get this actor's name. I always forget his name. First of all, it has Halle Berry.
Always a plus.
But she looks amazing. I think she's in her 50s, and I swear she looks like late 20s, 30s. She looks amazing. And then
she never looks bad.
Yeah.
It's so Patrick Wilson, and then the guy John Bradley, who's the bigger guy from Game of Thrones, the British guy. So he's sort of a conspiracy theorist. And in the beginning of the movie, they see this sort of big creature-esque thing. They're astronauts, Halle Berry and John Wilson. And it kills one of this guy they're with. And then they go back to Earth, and it kind of gets blamed on John Wilson. So he kind of gets kicked out of NASA, and he's sort of down and out, and it's 10 years later. And this conspiracy theorist, who's John Wilson or John Bradley, he figures out by whatever that the moon is collapsing towards Earth, right? So this is like a disaster movie. Roland Emmerich did Independence Day. He's got a crazy line of movies. He did Universal Soldier in 1992. He did The Patriot with Mel Gibson. He also did Midway recently, which I saw was a war movie. I thought it was really good. So this was kind of, it was like Independence Day, but the moon is falling into Earth and everything is getting sucked up, and it's like a huge disaster movie. So Patrick Wilson and Halle Berry have to sort of reconnect, squash their beef, and get this old spaceship, fly to outer space. So that's basically the plot. It's a disaster movie, and I won't spoil the ending. It's not rated well. A lot of problems with it. Just believing that the moon crashing to Earth, you know, and somehow we can survive that by sending someone up into space. And then but it's not like, it's entertaining. You know what I mean? It's not so bad that you're like, I can't even, like, there are I did watch it, and I enjoyed it. And then at the end, it sort of takes if you've seen Interstellar, it sort of takes a right into this AI kind of like futuristic, sort of almost more philosophical turn towards the end, which I actually kind of liked. I was like, I appreciate that. But just seeing all this guy's movies that he's directed, like, I probably would say this isn't one of his better ones. But you know, he's a pretty good director. So it was entertaining. It's long, so I mean, if you like that kind of movie, check it out. But it's very sort of summer blockbuster. You know, the moon is crashing into Earth, and like, you know, skyscrapers are getting pulled up, and people are flying around, and there's like,
does that actually crash into the Earth?
You can see it coming over the Earth, like, and it's about to hit it, and then they do something. I don't want to spoil it, but
that's all right. I won't watch it. You can spoil it. You can spoil it for me. I don't care. Roland Emmerich directs like a sledgehammer. Every movie is just like bam, bam, bam.
Independence Day is one of my favorite movies.
You know, I saw that in theaters, and that when I saw that in theaters, that was just blew my mind.
Was a good movie.
I saw that like the opening week. Like it opened like July 4th was like a Wednesday. It opened on Tuesday. It opened like it was great. It has that Independence Day, I think, is the only movie of his that I really liked. But the sequel I never even saw. I hear it's horrible.
No,
awful.
But you have classic Randy Quaid, and by classic, it predicted him now. And then Independence Day, you have the Bill Pullman speech, which is the best president speech
Oh
Yeah.
of
yeah.
any
so
speech.
wooden, so awful, and yet so majestic.
So
Yeah.
majestic. Today is our Independence Day. It's the greatest. If you need to get ramped up on something.
I actually I have a question I ask people. What's the best movie you ever saw in theaters? Like experience wise, you went in and it's a famous movie now for like what is your best movie you saw in theaters? Mine is Scream. I saw Scream when I was pretty young and I was absolutely terrified. Like it affected me for like a year. I was so scared. I didn't expect it. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know anything about it, and that's got to be my best one.
This is a great question. I mean, if I were to just, and I could change my answer if it sinks in more, but I think my answer would have to be Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both
So
good
mine
ones.
is easy. It's Apocalypse Now.
Oh.
I saw that when I was maybe 13, and I still get goosebumps when I think about it. And I was totally into the Doors for up until I was like 18, and now I can't listen to them anymore. The Doors were for people who are like 13 to 18. It's classic rock for teenagers. But that movie, I think I had seen Star Wars like right before that, and I hated Star Wars, and I never watched another Star Wars after that. And then I saw that, and I'm like, okay, that's a movie. It is so fucked up, and it's a movie.
Yeah, Star Wars was really good. I saw all those in the theater originally, but I wouldn't have picked it as my answer. And you were going to do an entire podcast about rediscovering Star Wars, which you never did.
I ended up watching a couple of them.
The news. All right. Well, we can get into Star Wars.
Okay.
Let me
Can
do
I
my
say
thing, and then
mine?
because we can talk.
Oh, yeah, what about-
Well, Bob's got one. Bob didn't go yet.
Oh, well, it's obvious. It's Rocky for all the reasons. I mean, whatever Stallone became, he's kind of a cliche these days. No, he's not a cliche, but that movie was perfect. It was perfect. It was
Rocky
the script was perfect. The acting was perfect. The directing was perfect. The fact that he didn't win was perfect. And Talia Shire, I was in love with Talia Shire. I mean, I think I was 14 when that movie came out. I'm like, I love her.
That's
so
awesome.
there you go.
There you go. All right, great question.
Yeah.
Great question. So, all right, let's do the next one. Okay, so Confess Fletch. Now, this movie is in theatrical release, but how it is in limited theatrical release, and it is also on Prime Video on Demand. And it is going to be on Showtime on October 28th. So if you're gonna go see it, which I enjoyed this movie very much, I would go to the theater unless there's a bunch of you, because it's like a $20 rental at this point. So I don't recommend spending $20 if you're gonna watch it yourself. But wait it out. You can wait it out. Hold out a month and watch it. So let me talk about Fletch for a second. So Fletch, let me go back to 1985. 1985 brought us Fletch. These are based on Gregory MacDonald's novels. And so Fletch 1985 starred Chevy Chase, and there was a sequel in 1989 called Fletch Lives. Now, Fletch 1985, the original one, I will say is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. If there's like a comedy Rushmore, to me that movie is on there, and Chevy Chase as I Am Fletcher is one of the funniest things. I mean, I think one of the reasons it would be so hard or took so long to reboot the series is Chevy Chase was so identified with this character Now, Fletch Lives was not nearly as good as Fletch. They didn't really go with the books and stuff like that, but Chevy, that was classic Chevy Chase. Those of you who only know maybe Chevy from Community and after, where he just, everyone thought he was just a big jerk or whatever. But there was a point where no one was funnier than Chevy Chase. Okay. Chevy Chase was just the greatest. And Fletch is part of that in 1985. And I've even rewatched it recently. I can laugh every time I watch that show. It's just so funny. And it's just great. It's just a great movie, Fletch, all around. So they've tried to reboot this numerous times. Kevin Smith tried to reboot it with Jason Lee. I mean, if Kevin Smith can get Clerks 3 made, but not Fletch, what kind of world do we live in? Bill Lawrence tried to reboot it with Zach Braff. Jason Sudeikis was part of it. I don't think it's Zach Braff or Jason Sudeikis would have been as good as I think I could see a Jason Lee being good. You almost need a subtlety to the humor, and Zach and Jason are too naturally already funny. I think. Where I know it's weird to say with Chevy Chase, but Chevy Chase wasn't I don't know. You just have to understand. And so they tried to revive this franchise a lot, and I think Kevin Smith even tried to revive it at one point with Chevy Chase. I think the quote I remember him saying was the studio said, "We don't make Chevy Chase movies anymore. We're not in that business." And so here we are, 2022, and they have created the new movie Confess Fletch, which is based on the book also called Confess Fletch by Gregory MacDonald. It's a series of novels from the 70s on I Am Fletcher. Irwin Fletch, his nickname Fletcher. So, and he's an investigative reporter, and these are his exploits. Now, this movie, John Hamm has taken over as Irwin Fletcher. And let me say, John Hamm, who most people would know originally from Mad Men, but John Hamm is a hilarious guy. Like on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and who was in Wedding Sing. I mean, he's proven himself to be one of those subtly funny people, and so him as Irwin Fletcher is just perfect. It's just absolutely perfect. He's so funny. The way it's dry humor, it's quick humor, it's smart humor, and it comes at you, and sometimes you might even not realize, oh, that was a joke, and then you kind of release laugh afterwards. But it is thoroughly enjoyable. I will say that this movie, at one point I was watching it with my wife, and she's like, I can't even follow what's going on. It's all over the place. And when I was talking to Howard Rosner, I felt he kind of made a similar. I turned to her and said, "This is based on a book. Just trust it." just put your faith in it. And sure enough, at the end, it all kind of ties together, and you see, it does a good job of kind of, leading in these directions, and it ends up being these things and stuff like that. Interestingly enough, there's a couple elements in Confess Fletch that were part of or in Fletch, 1985 Fletch. One line right out of the 1985. Now, I'm not saying the 1985 Fletch didn't borrow it from this book. I didn't read Confess Fletch, so that's possible that they borrowed some elements from the series in general. But there's two. I'm not gonna say what they are because one gives away a plot, but and it's more just like, oh, that's kind of cool. It comes off more like a callback. But Marcia Gay Harden is in this. She plays the Countess. She is hilarious. Roy Wood Jr. plays Inspector Detective Monroe. Roy Wood Jr., I think he's on The Daily Show. I actually worked with him once for a weekend at the Comedy Castle. He's amazing at this. Aidan Mayeri plays Grizz. She's great. Kyle MacLachlan, I think is great. He's classic Kyle in this. Yeah. And just the cast is really good. I enjoyed it. But this is the type of movie I really enjoy. It's funny. You watch it, you have to watch it. It's one of those things where you can't stop watching and walk away. You know what I mean? Like these days, you can walk 45 minutes into a drama episode of a TV show and you're fine.
Yeah.
So this, you really got to kind of watch it and enjoy it. It's well written. It's a very dialogue heavy movie. And I mean that is a good thing, but I enjoy that as well. I found that. it's about a missing art collection, and Fletch is the subject of a murder. There's a murder, and they think Fletch did it, and so of course he has to solve the case to prove himself innocent. And the end of the movie sort of ends as a tee up to the next book in the series, so it's sort of like a way to do that. And then also John Slattery. Did I get his name right? Yeah, John Slattery is in this. He plays Frank Jaffe, who was Fletch's boss, but also they were both in Mad Men together. So it's fun to see the scenes with the two of them kind of acting together in a different way, in a hilarious way. So I recommend it. I mean, I wouldn't pay $20 to rent it unless there's a group of you each throwing in $5, but it will be available, I think, in a month's time on Showtime, and so you can watch it for free. Or if you love like a David Mamet, where it's like a heavy, humorous thing, it's not the over-the-top slapstick of like the 1985 Fletch, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny, but it's not over the top like that. It's much more subtle.
What's with the throwback graphics for the poster? Is it set in present day?
Yeah, it's set in present day. I think the throwback to it, I think, is just more probably a nod to the, it's a 1976 novel, so it's probably just done in that style. Yeah,
I think John Hamm just intersects the classic actor like a Cary Grant and modern acting better than anybody that is doing it. I mean, that guy can do more with like a shrug and an eye roll than most people can do with a soliloquy, He's good.
He's great.
Yeah.
I just watched, which I know Bob is going to walk out on this comment, but I just watched Maverick, and I loved Maverick. And and John Hamm was great in Maverick. Yeah. And he's, he can play many different kind of roles and temperaments, and he's so good. But I mean, I think people discovered how funny he really could be, which is a talent in itself. Not everyone can be that funny with that kind of timing. And he's I agree with you, Scott. He's multifaceted. He's great. He's great.
I've only seen him in Bridesmaids, and he was great in that as the asshole boyfriend to Kristen Wiig.
Yeah. He's funny in that too. Yeah, he plays like an Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. He plays the people that kidnapped all the women and kept them in a bunker. And I know it doesn't sound funny, but
yeah, that was a good show.
I want to clarify my stance on Maverick. I don't have a stance. I only watched 15 minutes, and I
know
left.
You walked out. You walked out.
Why'd you walk out?
I couldn't get my head around that I'm watching a Scientology freak like Cruz. He's such a bizarre dude.
Yeah.
And the fact that, I don't know. I thought I'm not up for this tonight. I don't want to see this shit. And the whole bro culture in the bar and I don't know. I'm sure that I'll watch it on HBO some night and enjoy it. But
when's it coming out on HBO? Does anybody know?
No, I don't know. But we watched Top Gun prior, like a month or so ago. I mean, after decades. And I gotta say, like, in terms of like with all the talk about it being like an amazing sequel, it was an amazing sequel. I mean, to capture the tone of the original movie and all that kind of stuff, it was I really enjoyed that. It was really good. So anyway, it was fun though. It was fun though. But I mean, but Bob, I think you just have to watch it as it's a summer movie, right?
Yeah, and everybody says
it's a popcorn flick. Watch it as a popcorn flick. There's nothing realistic about the movie.
I know. It was all the Cruise thing. I think I just read an article where he hadn't seen his daughter in like 7 years. I'm like, what the fuck, really, man? How you got all the time to make these movies and you can't see your daughter? That's just weird to me. So I couldn't separate the actor from the
art.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, has anyone started to watch? Has anyone watched the new season of Cobra Kai?
No.
I'm
Okay.
almost done.
I just finished 5 episodes of it.
Yeah.
I rewatched Karate Kid 3, I don't know, a few weeks ago. Because I realized, season 4 brings back Terry Silver, and I hadn't really, I hadn't watched Karate Kid 3 because I didn't really like it, and so I didn't really remember it. So I kind of forced myself to kind of rewatch it. And I got to say, they reinvented the Terry Silver character much better. He was much more of a maniacal joke. I mean, it was like an over the top almost, and he's much better in the new series. But I'm enjoying it, season 5 actually a lot.
Yeah, I really like it, and I was thinking about it. What they do with that, it's almost like a comic book that they make into live action.
Yeah, and it's interesting that who plays Danny LaRusso? Why am I blanking on his name? Ralph Macchio agreed to come back because honestly, as you watch this series, the person you hate the most and is the most annoying and that you're completely irritated with is Ralph Macchio and his character. It's like, and if you watch Karate Kid 3 again, he's a whiny bitch in Karate Kid 3. Like he is. He's like, it's like horrible. He's like the worst part of the movie. And so it's interesting because Johnny Lawrence is like, he's evolved and
he is fantastic.
He's fantastic.
All throughout it. He is great. And whoever plays Macchio's wife is great too.
He's great. I love her. Yeah. And but his character, I mean, Macchio plays it great. I don't mean anything about the acting, so I just mean the character. And it's like, but man, the character is just, he doesn't see that he's literally the cause of every problem in this series.
Is he really? I've never seen it. I didn't know that.
He is, because he has this thing going on in his head where he's convinced himself that everything's against him and that these people are evil. But by interjecting that into the real world, he makes that real. He manifests it. And so it's like, it's so no, we have to stop him. Why? Because he's attacking us. Well, he's only attacking you because you're his nemesis. If you aren't his nemesis, no one else is a nemesis. At the All-Star Karate Champion, which is, by the way, in this valley, apparently, there's 9 karate dojos, of which you never hear of 7 of them. Except they didn't even make it actually into the introduction in season 4 of the final All Valley tournament. They showed just the 3, and then suddenly on the scoreboard there's 9. And it's like, but no one has a problem with any of the other dojos. It was only these 2 dojos. And it just to me, it's kind of funny when it's just, he can't get out of his own way, and he's gonna, he's just destroying everything about it.
I've never seen the show. There has to have been 1 or 2 nods to Mr. Miyagi, Pat Morita. I mean,
there's
almost every episode.
Ralph Macchio can't talk without doing a nod to.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
God.
I like the fact that Ralph Macchio has found his second, wind in the entertainment, and Scott Baio has not.
Yes.
Ralph Macchio plays Daniels great. It's such an irritating character that I guess you gotta give him kudos for that. But it's just like I think I'm really enjoying it, and they've been bringing back every character from the movies.
Yeah, I can't believe they get all of them. And you know what? The fight scenes remind me of like West Side Story meets The Warriors.
I mean, they're brutal fight scenes.
They are.
I mean,
but they're very well choreographed. So it's like dancing and fighting at the same time.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you I hear people have different, they have 1 or 2 opinions. They either love it or people hate it. But like, I started watching this season. I didn't have much high hopes, but I was like, I got sucked right in.
Yeah, that's good. It's actually my favorite season.
It's really good. And Terry Silver it's better than Kreese. Kreese was 1 note.
Yeah.
Just 1 note. Terry Silver is like such a good villain, and way better than the Karate 3 version of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think, but now they're like trying to figure out how do we get Hilary Swank in here, you know,
Yeah.
because she was in the 4th movie, and it's like, and then the girlfriend. I don't even think it's. I don't even think it gives any, I won't give anything away, but like,
don't jump the swank.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm into karate. I'm into that, and then Andor is supposed to be the best Star Wars series.
Oh, I didn't watch it today. Did
No,
you watch it?
3 episodes. No, I haven't seen it. I just gone
Yeah.
by the headlines, but 3 episodes dropped today.
Ah, man.
Our friend Dan Zare watched the first 4 episodes. I think he loved it a lot.
Back up the milk truck, baby. Keep milking that thing. Let's. How about
This one's supposed to be very, very different than anything
Really?
else. But yeah.
God.
I was recommended Fleabag from a podcast guest who was one of David Letterman's original writers. Have you guys watched Fleabag?
No, I've not.
Watched season 1 of Fleabag, and I loved it. My wife didn't, but she doesn't like when the main character is purposely not likable.
Uh-huh.
I liked it a lot.
My
I think
wife's
that
the same, yeah.
what's her name, Phoebe, she's very talented. Like, like super talented.
Yeah.
Like super talented. Yeah, I would recommend. I would watch it. I haven't watched the 2nd season, I don't think, or if I did, I don't remember. But yeah, the first season's great. It won every award, like every award.
Yeah.
It was one of those shows where it was like, oh shit, we should have waited a year and not come out the same year as Fleabag. All right, well, hey, this is a fun episode, guys. I appreciate.
Yeah, good one.
Appreciate you guys hanging. John, why don't you say goodnight if you want to remind people of your Instagram handle?
Yes, depressed_Darth, comedy videos. And then I just want to clarify my comment about the movie Scream. Not the best movie I've seen in theaters, but in terms of experience-wise, I was terrified.
Oh,
Gotcha.
so I got
I
that.
understood that.
Yeah.
I've seen better movies than Scream in theaters, but it was the most I've ever been scared, like the experience itself. Okay. Pleasure.
See you, Lippy Pants.
You're on.
All right, Scotty, say goodnight.
Good night, Scotty.
Bob,
The podcast is called Behind the Bits, and I host it.
All right. Let's see. The 29th of this month, see me at the bus stop in Birch Run on October 1st at the Sterling Heights Event Center. And every month at Genetti's, Northville, the Sal and Bob Show.
Awesome. And you can check out the Sal and Bob Show and check out my podcast, Classic Conversations. If you're in the little house on there.
Yeah. She held up.
Yeah, she's both her and Loretta Swit was on last week for MASH.
Yeah.
You look at, I mean, they're both in their 80s now.
Yeah.
And they're both, still fine. But like, if you look at them in their heyday, both of them.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very nice.
Okay.
They're beautiful. But that's, so yeah. It was funny because there's this huge little house. Yeah, like people are just, it's funny when somebody once asked me, like, who's the most famous person on your podcast? And I said, well, it depends on who you think the most famous person
no doubt.
on the podcast is.
Yeah.
Because I go, who I think is never who you think is. And it's different for everybody. And so anyway, so all right, well, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow the Jeff DeWaskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff DeWaskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us, listen to our podcasts, Classic Conversations, and the Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.